Hi, I'm Doug Moody, and today we're in Northville, New York at the furniture shop of Bill Coffey, where we will be examining the heat treating process of bamboo. The heat treating process is very important to the rod maker. Bamboo is a substance that can hold water for decades, even in a completely dry environment. The process of heat treating can be very specific. The amount of time needed to remove all the water, yet not scorch the fibers of the bamboo by overheating, is a very, very meticulous process. Overheating will scorch the fibers of the bamboo and break down the bond between the lignin and the fibers of the bamboo itself, making the bamboo brittle, and the rod will disintegrate very quickly. There have been many examples of heat treating fly rods from the inception of bamboo in this country. Generally, people would use an open flame and flame treat the entire culm of bamboo. The big stick of bamboo would be heated from the center, working out towards the ends, using the flame to actually help heat the water to steam within the culm of bamboo, pushing the water and steam out the ends. The bamboo basically are long tubes. It's a grass, so they're long tubes. And as you start to heat in the center of the bamboo, the pressure from the steam created will actually push the water out the ends of the tubes and out of each individual strip. Or if you're heat treating the whole culm, it pushes it out of the whole culm at once. The main tool that I'll be using is the oven or oast, which is made from 6-inch diameter pieces of stovepipe, which I've covered in insulation and placed a wire rack inside. The main heat source is a heat paint gun attached to the end of the oven itself. There are 3 holes along the length of the oven where I can insert a flue thermometer to keep an accurate reading of the temperature within the oast itself. The cap of the oven has a handle for removal and is perforated with a slide on the top, which lets me adjust the amount of air that is allowed to flow through the oven itself. The other tool that I'll be using today is the binder. This tool helps me bind together the individual strips of bamboo with cotton binding cord. This tool is used in the gluing process as well as binding the pieces together for the heat treating process. The gluing machine itself is counterweighted to apply pressure evenly to the strips and turn the strips as you turn the handle. This moves the strips together and allows the cord to wrap evenly around all 6 strips. I'm placing the enamel side of the strips on the outside of each section as I bind it together. The enamel is the tightest grain. They're called your power fibers. The inside, the pith side of each of the triangles is more porous and contains most of the water. By binding them together with the enamel side out, it keeps all of the sections even, and as the water escapes from the individual strips via the inside, it has a clean route to escape evenly from each individual strip. When binding pieces together, it's essential that the tension stays even down the entire length of the strips, from butt to tip. Once I've completed a pass through the binder, I reverse the direction of the cord and run the piece through the binder again. This wraps the cord in the opposite direction. This is not as important for the heat treating process, but is essential for the gluing process, as reversing the direction of the cord helps to take twist out of the sections when they're bound together. It's important to rewind the tensioning cord on the gluing machine after 2 or 3 passes through the machine itself. The tensioning cord spools from one side of the machine to the other. And if you let too much cord build up, then you will run out of cord halfway through binding a strip, which is not as critical in the heat treating process, but is very, very important in the gluing process. You don't want to be halfway through a strip and have to finish the rest of it by hand because you've run out of tensioning cord on your spool of your gluing machine. I keep a consistent temperature inside the oven at all times. Optimal temperature for heat treating is 350 degrees. But because I have to keep taking the end cap off to rotate and turn the pieces inside the oven, some of that temperature is lost each time that I do that. So I run the oven up to between 375 and 380 degrees, so that as I go through the process and take the cap off, the average temperature is about 350. Now that my oven is at the proper temperature, I slide the pieces in on top of a wire rack inside the oven. I'm careful to keep an eye on my temperature and the time when I put them in. The pieces have to be rotated inside the oven. They're sitting on a metal grate, and the metal grate can act as a heat sink. So I do have to rotate at a given time, which, depending on the piece, is about a third of the way through the process. Halfway through, and I switch end to end. I've taken my first sections out of the oven after the heat treating process. As the water escapes from the bamboo itself becomes slightly smaller in diameter. The water's taking up space, getting rid of it makes it smaller. So the cotton binding cord, which was very tight as it was wrapped in the binding machine, it's now just slightly loose. It moves around a little bit because the whole diameter of the rod is smaller and the tip is lighter. Most of the rods that I've heat treated today have been full rods, what I call a full rod, a 2-tip rod. A good rod comes with a butt section and 2 tip sections, as the tip sections tend to wear quicker than the butt sections. Each time you fish, you're supposed to switch between the 2 tip sections. That way the rod has a consistent longevity. I only had enough bamboo to create 1 tip for this rod. If you use it intermittently, a 1-tip fly rod will last you your whole life and beyond. The next blank I'm going to place in the oven is a 6-foot 1-piece rod. Now my oven itself is 6 feet long, just slightly over. Putting the tip section in close to my heat source for too long can scorch the fibers. So rather than rotate end to end, I will leave it with the butt section towards the heat source. The butt section has more water in it and is going to need to spend more time closer to the heat source and will not scorch like the tip would.
It's very difficult to make sure that you have exact heat and exact duration to remove the water when you're doing that by hand. It's very easy to overheat the bamboo, and you may overheat it in a certain section and not in another section. That's why I chose to build an oven and use this other method. I feel it's more accurate.